So I'll be expanding on my partner's claims, starting with secondary claim 1, trade-offs for planetary exploration are mostly negative. So I'll begin with the evidence by Jim Bell from Cornell University, where he states that robotic machines will only do what they are programmed to do. They are not programmed to detect weirdness, which includes the unimaginable, the unknown, the strange non-carbon life that we may have encountered on Mars, for example, with the 2 Viking vehicles found in 1976. So this basically means that as the alternative to manned missions, NASA also uses robots, but these robots aren't capable of looking for what scientists are really out there looking for, different forms of life and such. That they can do some testing, but most of it is just what they're sent up to do. So scientists can't really predict what they're going to find. So sending robots up there that are only programmed to search for certain things and ignore everything else is not going to be really beneficial. So next, also, there are some technology that is not meant to do planetary explorations, but rather just to aid in servicing how astronauts get up there, such as with the Space Transport System, which is a shuttle, and the International Space Station, which is where they're doing a lot of their research. But it's been noted that NASA has long touted the space station as the perfect platform to study space and the shuttle a perfect vehicle to build it. However, as early as 1990, 13 different science groups have continuously rejected the space station, citing huge expenses for small gains. So this basically means since 1990, tons of research and science groups have said that all this research and practices that they're doing up there has really had no benefits. They're not really finding huge advancements. So it's kind of a waste of money to be sending them up there. So moving on to subpoint B, which is concerning the environment. There are many ways space exploration can affect our environment right here on Earth. Toxic chemicals used to manufacture the rocket, carbon dioxide pumped into the atmosphere, and the energy used to manufacture the equipment and vehicles. Now keep in mind, these vehicles and technology that NASA has are on an enormous scale, so that puts into perspective how much emissions and debris that they're giving off. So for the next era, NASA had created a Constellation Program, and they had actually published a 500-page document that kind of stated the environmental effects that this program would be having on the nearby environment. And it included such things as the effect that it would have on local species, the sound effects, different maybe ozone effects. But what the document didn't address is the environmental impact on outer space itself, such as orbital debris. It also didn't consider any military aspects associated with the program and the environmental impact of that. And the document would not address how the Kennedy Space Center could manage its light population, pollution, monitor bird strikes, or raise awareness of metals in the environment. And the environment impact on the moon was not addressed either, because a lot of their missions were done within orbit of that. So Slate Magazine also stated that bits of aluminum oxide, for example, they reflect the visible light from the sun back into space, which cools Earth. But these same molecules also have the ability to absorb infrared radiation and emanating from the planet's surface, which traps it, and essentially it creates a greenhouse effect. And then the second is soot can also cool or warm the planet, depending on the size, number, and location of these particles. So given these all come off from these launches and missions, and given the kind of diversity of it, and there's no really predictability of how they can react unless they're in certain, meeting certain requirements, scientists can't predict what's going to happen when they're given off, which can be really dangerous to the environment because we don't know how to counteract it. Another sub-point C for the environment is that NASA also admitted how there was 500 pieces of debris larger than 1 centimeter currently orbiting the planet, not to mention the tens of millions of really tiny particles that can damage sensitive equipment, which my partner brought up. So these actually can slip in and damage their own technology. And at high heats, they're able to survive the atmospheric reentry to strike the Earth's surface. So it's not just what's damaging in outer space, it can damage here. Moving on to secondary thing 2, government is giving too much to space and planetary exploration. NASA is ranked as the second largest spender of research and development expenditures, making it one of the 3 agencies that accounts for a total of 90% of all expenditures from the research and development funds. So that's quite a large sum considering that there's many agencies that make up it. So NASA also estimates that the PEG shuttle program's cost through the end of last year at $209 billion, at the end of 2010, yielding a per-flight cost of $1.6 billion, and the orbiter fleet never flew more than 9 missions in a single year. So it costs hundreds of billions of dollars just to fly it this many times. Like, you can count on your hands how many times it's able to launch, and they're just going in orbit. So NASA's been doing the same thing for 30 years, just flying into orbit for hundreds of billions of dollars. Moving on to the last point, where about funding. So taxpayers shouldn't, refuting the claim, taxpayers shouldn't be having to spend their money where they don't necessarily want it. There's tons of private investors who are interested in this, and an example would be that the private market wants to develop space tourism, and that they can create these things in shuttles. So the success of the $10 million X Prize attracting interest in private investment in private space programs has shown that there's no need for the state to be involved in space travel on non-science side.